Chess friends, I hope you are doing well. Today, I am going to start my new course on chess opening gambits and traps. I am very excited to share an amazing gambit named Muzio in the King's Gambit. The King's Gambit is very masterful, and this video is going to be a masterpiece across the internet, so let's get started without wasting any time. White starts with e4, and after e5, you can go with f4, that is called the King's Gambit, which sacrifices one pawn early in the opening. Like investing in a new and great company early to make profits in the long term, here, black has many lines such as knight f6, knight c6 d6, and even d5. Black accepts the King's Gambit, and our Muzio Gambit lies in the knight f3 variation. You play that move to prevent any sort of queen entry on h4, and black can actually go with g5, which is the best move, and other possible moves like knight c6 or d6. I will show you the variation in the g5 line, something like g5. Then bring out your bishop to the c4 square to get access to this diagonal and attack the f7 pawn. Black plays g4, attacking the knight, and here is a question for the knight: where should the knight go? Should it push forward or retreat? Here, you can play the advantageous move and surprise your opponent by castling short. Chess.com considers this a brilliant move because it sacrifices a knight early on the board, and it is called the Muzio Gambit. Black captures the knight on f3, and then queen takes f3 happens on the board. The key point of the idea is that my queen, along with the rook, is attacking the pawn, and this has an opportunity to invade the pawn on f7 along with the bishop. Playing knight f6 is a very bad choice because your pawn can easily push forward to attack the knight, and later on, it will attack the f7 pawn. That's why the best move is to consider queen f6. Your opponent considers queen f6 to protect that pawn, but don't worry, he further threatens you with queen d4 check to pick up the bishop. So what is your reaction after seeing this move? Do you get angry or depressed? If your mind is stable, then don't worry, you have the crunchy sacrifice on e5, sacrifice a pawn on the e5 square, which also deflects the queen's position on the f6 square. After queen takes e5 happens on the board, can you guess what white should consider in this position? White played the brilliant move bishop takes f7, black goes mad after bishop takes f7, sacrificing another piece right in the opening. Black has two options, to capture the bishop on f7 or not. Black, being greedy, captures the bishop on f7, and then you can again sacrifice another pawn by playing d4. A very sacrificing move. Are you following me? I am showing and illustrating the chess gambit and its key ideas to defend even at the level of grandmaster players. If you just watch my video and memorize all the moves, you will be able to play them in your games. Now the queen is under attack, and black has two major options. To play queen f5 or queen takes d4. Additionally, black can play other queen moves, but I will not be able to show all the chess moves because that will be very crazy. You have to just understand the key and fundamental ideas behind every move. Alright, if queen takes d4 happens on the board with a check, you can play the surprising move that can even shock a grandmaster. Can you guess what that move is? Try to think a little bit. It is not hiding the king on h1, the move is bishop e3. What a spectacular move it is. It sacrifices another piece on the board, but the problem is that black's pawn cannot take the bishop, because it is pinned by my rook. Some chess players might think of considering queen takes b2, as this looks like a very good move to consider, but it's not. It's like trying to put your hand in a hole thinking there are many gems and diamonds, but that hole is a home of a snake. White will consider, I will consider queen takes f4 with a check, and after the knight blocks on f6. You can go with bishop d4, attacking the queen and simultaneously attacking the knight on the f6 square. Your position will be lost, and you can easily defeat black no matter what black plays next. Alright, so going back to the position, we discovered that queen takes b2 is a very vulnerable move. That's why the queen goes back to the f6 square to protect the pawn. My knight comes to the c3 square. Here is my knight's idea. It wants to go to the center to deflect your queen's position. Different players such as grandmasters, intermediate, and advanced chess players might think differently, such as playing knight e7, capturing the bishop on e3, or playing any bishop move, but here, black actually played c6 to prevent the knight from coming to e4, but he forgot that I have another entry point for the knight on the e4 square, so if I can't go by train to my destination, I can go by airplane. Your queen is under attack, and when the queen moves again, you can see that the queen and king are still aligned on this file, and my pieces are very aggressive. The bishop is also under attack. Can you guess what I should play in this position? It's not any natural kind of knight move. The best move is pawn to g4, what a spectacular and amazing move it is. Still, the idiot pawn on f4 cannot capture, because there is a positional deficiency in your position. If the queen goes to any of these squares, it will be a vulnerable position for you. After I capture the pawn, you will notice that your bishop will be attacked by my two villains, the rook and the queen, so the king cannot touch the bishop. After king f6, I will consider knight c5 check, and the king's position is completely burdened. Therefore, after bishop captures and recaptures occur on the board, queen f6 comes, then I will just ignore your queen and go for your king by playing queen d6 check. After that, the king moves, and the rook captures the queen. Consequently, rook f1 will come on the board to attack the knight, and there is no way to protect your knight and the king. The game will be over by my thunderbolt weapon. So, let me share an amazing motivational quote with you. Surround yourself with positive people who believe in your dreams, encourage your ideas, support your ambitions, and bring out the best in you. Going back to the position, as the queen is under attack, black decided to consider knight f6, sacrificing the queen on the board. The game is completely in my hands, and I will win very soon. But wait, talking about other variations, in the previous variation where knight c3 was played, we discovered that black played c6, that was a complete mistake. Another possible and excellent move is knight e7, capturing the bishop on e3. Let me show you these variations too. Otherwise, you will complain that your opponent played something absolutely new in the Muzio Gambit and you got puzzled. After f takes e3, the file will be open where my queen can swim to h5, checking the king, and the queen is also under attack. After the king moves, the rook captures, and consequently, g5 check will arrive, forcing the king to move, and then rook f1 will attack the knight. Even playing bishop g7 does not matter because my knight can come to d5, putting more pressure on your knight. Therefore, black thinks a little bit and plays a curious move, e2, to try to deflect the rook's position. Can you guess what I should play in this position? Try to think a little bit. If you find that move, you will be the next gambit master. Yes, a man who studies philosophy is called a philosopher, a man who studies science is called a scientist, and a man who makes chess gambits is called a gambler. The move is rook takes f6, sacrificing the rook right away. If you found that move, congratulations, because in a few moves, knight e7 will lead to a checkmate. The game will be over. Alright, going back to the variation, we discovered that f takes e3 is a very bad choice. Another possible move that your opponent can consider is knight e7, which looks good as it provides some opportunities to develop the pieces and try to secure the king. Black will slowly develop his pieces, but in the meantime, your king's position is very burdened. Therefore, I will take the pawn, and after queen c6 happens to offer a queen exchange, I will ignore it as if I have a free visa to travel over the countries. Queen h5 check will arrive, and as the queen moves to g6, I will consider bishop takes c6, making a discovered check to the king. Then I will make a significant move by playing knight e4. This knight e4 move sacrifices the queen on h5, but if you dare to capture the queen right away, knight d6 check will arrive on the board, leading to checkmate with the knight and the bishop. I am down almost 10 points of material. Not 10 points but 22 points of material, and still able to checkmate you with my two minor pieces. What a tragic irony for you. Going back to the position, we discovered that the queen cannot be captured, which is why we have d6 as the only move to save the game. Then after queen e2, black plays bishop h3 to create pressure on the g2 pawn. Therefore, knight f6 check will arrive, ruining your position. The king cannot hide his face in any holes or a dustbin. The king has to be exposed on the live camera that reporter Rook is making from the f1 square. The discovered check will arrive again. and my queen and knight will join in attacking the knight on e7, therefore, the king cannot leave the knight, so after the bishop blocks and I capture the knight, in a few moves, I will capture even more. Can you guess what I will consider in this position? Try to think a little bit, don't be just a viewer, try to be a genius who plays chess in his mind like Bobby Fischer, who used almost 98% of his mental energy on chess. The best move is rook takes f5, sacrificing the rook right away, because after you capture, rook f1 will come again, and your queen will be under attack. I will win your queen on the next move. Although the game is equal, with the queen up, there will be a chance to win the game. Returning to the main variation, when d4 was considered, instead of capturing the pawn, some may consider playing queen f5, as this looks like a very good move to consider, then I will capture the pawn on f4. The file is quite open. Something like knight f6 followed by queen e2, and queen e6 comes on the board. I will consider bishop e5, putting pressure on the f6 knight. Even playing bishop g7 does not matter because my knight can come to c3, overpowering the center square to pressurize your knight on f6. Playing d5 would be a move to consider, but black plays d6, which is also good to attack my bishop. Then I will go with queen h5 check, a very crucial move. Have you noticed that queen h5 has come multiple times on the board? As the king moves back, I will capture the knight, and after you capture, can you guess what I will consider in this position? The brilliant move to make in this progression is rook to e1, not sacrificing the rook right away. Then after bishop takes d4 check happens on the board, trying to save the bishop. As the king moves back, the bishop comes in and the knight will come to the d5 square, another knight comes to the c6 square. Can you guess the best move I would consider in this position? Try to think a little and consider what Levy-Rosman would do. The move is rook takes d5, sacrificing the rook because after rook f6 happens on the board, queen takes d5 followed by queen g5 will lead to an instant checkmate. The game will be over for you. So, let me provide you a positive vibe quote in sudden with you. Think about every good thing in your life right now, free yourself of worrying, let go of the anxiety, breathe, stay positive, all is well. Going back to the position. Noticing that as d4 comes and instead of capturing the pawn on d4, many players would consider queen f5, but both moves are deficient and disadvantageous. I showed you almost every position in the gambit. The last variation is when you capture the pawn on the f7 square, sacrificing the bishop. Instead of capturing the bishop, many chess players might think of saving the king by playing king d8, which is also a crucial move to consider. It is not a bad move. Then after the knight moves and the bishop comes in, d3 will come to attack the pawn on f4. As the knight moves, knight e2 will create more pressure on the f4 pawn. As the knight moves, queen h3 comes and captures the knight on the e2 square. That's a good move, not so bad. So after queen takes h6 followed by knight e5 attacking the bishop comes back. Look at this position, the queen is under attack and has literally no square to go. I mean, it has only one square to go, c2. But this is completely vulnerable because bishop takes f4 can ruin your position. It will attack your knight, and the king on d8 will face many challenges. As the knight comes to g4 attacking the queen captures on f4, and followed by d6 and h3 happening on the board, your knight will be gone on the next move. White will have a 2.4 advantage in the position, with the black king unable to castle, and the game would continue with white having an opportunity to win. I hope you enjoyed the Muzio gambit. If you want more gambits such as on the King's Gambit or Sicilian Defense, you can comment. Wish you all the best, bye bye, take care, see you soon, and subscribe for more.